We don't want to be ignorant of Satan's devices. That's what Scripture says. We don't want to be ignorant of his devices. Satan comes at us through devices. He comes at us through the world system. Satan, first of all, is not omnipresent, okay? He's fast, but he's not omnipresent. So the notion that whatever's going wrong in your life is specifically Satan at work is just not accurate. Satan has a host of demons as well who do his bidding around the world. But primarily, he functions with the system of evil that is basically within the human race. So a fallen race of people are basically in the hands of Satan. The whole world lies in the lap of the evil one. That's what Scripture says. So it's not a matter of us fighting Satan as a personality, but it is important that we not be ignorant of his devices. And he goes around as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Not in some personal encounter with Satan, but he goes around creating an environment in the world that becomes solicitous to what is evil. He drives the world system at the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Just look at advertising alone. Just look at television alone, or film, or any form of media. It is just loaded with things that appeal to the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That sort of sums up the contemporary human philosophy. We have a right to be proud. We have a right to fulfill our desires. We have a right to fulfill even what we lust for. This is all legitimate. This is Satan's big lie. So it's important for a Christian to understand that you may never engage in a personal battle with Satan, but if you do, he's no more powerful than any other demon. And it's important to say that the Scripture gives us this promise: resist the devil and he will flee from you. It's not so much that you have to identify him and flee. It's that if you resist him, and you resist him by being strong in the Word and wearing the armor of Ephesians 6, he will flee from you. There's no basis for chasing around Satan and talking to him. I've never said a word to him in my entire life. I don't intend to. Don't even know if he's around. But that would be pointless anyway. But I avoid Satan, and I avoid the operation of Satan if I avoid the things that come from the world system at the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And you insulate yourself from those kinds of things by setting your affection on things above, by loving Christ, by dwelling on his word. David says, your word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, right? The Spirit of God is greater than Satan. You belong to God. Not even Satan can take you out of God's hands. Nothing can remove you from his care. Nothing can separate you from his love. So you don't need to be preoccupied with him. You don't need to speak to him or even to speak to demons. Spiritual warfare, you brought that up at the end, is described in 2 Corinthians as addressing the lies and the deceptive theologies and philosophies in the world with the truth of God. What the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians is the weapons of our warfare are not fleshly, they're not human. In other words, we're fighting a spiritual war, but we can't use human ingenuity, human wisdom, human ideas, human strategies, because we are assaulting fortresses, he says. Fortresses. The idea is a stone fortress. The targets are too formidable for us to be using human ingenuity to attack the kingdom of darkness. And what does he mean by attack it? Well, he goes on to say, we are assaulting fortresses. And when you ask what does he mean by that, the very next line, we are assaulting logismos, which is the Greek word for ideas, okay? Spiritual warfare is not chasing Satan. It's not chasing demons. It's attacking ideologies. It's attacking the lies of psychology or philosophy, all forms of religion. And Paul goes on to say it is virtually an assault or an attack on any idea raised up against the knowledge of God. 2 Corinthians 10 has all of this. So the weapons of our warfare they're not fleshly. but they're mighty unto God. We have to use divine weapons, and the weapons assault the fortresses in which people are held captive, and those fortresses are their ideologies. So spiritual warfare is essentially taking the truth and smashing the false ideas that hold people prisoner. Those fortresses become their prisons, and those fortresses ultimately become their tombs. And the word for fortress refers to all three. So spiritual warfare is not chasing Satan. It's not chasing demons. Think of the sons of Sceva in the book of Acts, who were supposed to be able to cast out demons. And the demons said to them, Jesus we know and Paul we know, but who are you? As if to say, you have no authority over us. So your whole life long, you don't need to be chasing demons. You need to be building yourself up on His most holy word so that you know the truth well enough to protect yourself, and you know the truth well enough to assault the ideologies that Satan has formed in the world that hold people prisoner. And ultimately then you take the truth and bring every thought, Paul says, captive to Christ. So we're smashing these fortifications, these wrong ideas raised up against the true knowledge of God to bring people into the knowledge of Christ. That's spiritual warfare.